Day webinar. We're so glad that you've joined us for what I think is a very, very special session. Here is just a little bit about me as your host. My name is Sarah Sandberg, and I joined NuORDER just about 3 months ago as our Senior Director of Customer Success. I saw a couple of familiar names on the webinar, so hi to all of you that I've gotten the pleasure of meeting, and for those that I haven't, I look forward to connecting with you soon. But the real star of this show is our special guest, and it is my extreme pleasure to introduce you to our guest of honor, Dino Dardano, who is the president of Hestra Gloves. Dino, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me today.
So for those who aren't familiar with Dino and Hestra, I'm going to just give you a little bit of background before we jump in. So Dino was president of his family's retail business for about 20 years and then transitioned over to Hestra in 2005. So for the last 11 years, he's worked for the Magnuson family managing Hestra's development in the US, and he and Hestra have been a customer of NuORDER for just under a year. And then a little bit about Hestra, if you're not familiar. So they represent some of the finest gloves for sport, fashion, and the work industry that are available on the market today. And they are distributed in 26 countries and over 5,000 retail locations globally. Quite a job, Dino.
Well, thank you.
So we've invited Dino here today to share a little bit about his experience with NuORDER. Some of the topics that are going to include the decision to go with NuORDER as Hestra's B2B solution, the process of integrating with NetSuite, getting reps and buyers to adopt, line sheets, barcode scanning, and NuORDER reporting tools, and last but certainly not least, how all this has affected Hestra's business. We do have some time that we've left at the end for your questions, so as things come up, you can type them into the chat box as we go along. All right, Dino, ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right, so starting at the beginning always seems like a good place to start. So why don't we kick this off by having you share a little bit about your search process for B2B and why you ultimately chose NuORDER.
Yeah, certainly. You know, looking at B2B solutions has been about a 3-year process for Hestra. You know, we realized a number of years ago that we needed to give our reps and retailers an easy way to access our company 24/7. So we took a pretty long, extensive approach, made a few wrong turns along the way, but I don't want to get into that. Ultimately, we landed on NuORDER and have just been very, very pleased with the interaction with staff. The whole team, NuORDER team, has just been wonderful to work with, and we were quickly able to implement the system and roll it out last fall for our trade show season. It's been quite successful, you know. Home market, we're based out of Hestra, Sweden, so we'll be rolling that out to their internal sales team as well as our agents throughout the EU markets.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Dino, for giving us a little bit of background. So the next step, really one of the main parts of your process was then the decision to integrate with NetSuite. For those that aren't familiar with NuORDER, we have a lot of integrations that we do here, and the ERP you came to us with was NetSuite, and ultimately I know you elected to do an integration. So will you talk a little bit about what that process was like and the experience overall?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the most defining reasons that we did go with NuORDER is because they actually had working integrations with our ERP system, NetSuite. A lot of other companies out there said they could do it, but it was a major challenge. Given the experience that NuORDER's had, you know, with integrating with NetSuite and other customers, we were very confident we'd made the right decision. Working with their integration team was fabulous. within 60 days, we had a fully integrated solution. You know, I'll go ahead and say that it worked right out of the gate because it did. Maybe that's not always the case, but I was very impressed with how supportive they were, and if there were any issues, they were immediately resolved. So now we have a fully integrated solution with NetSuite. And on a daily basis, kind of just so you understand what's being integrated, consumers, both retailers and our reps, are able to submit orders 24/7 that automatically populate pending approval in our ERP system. And then on top of that, all of our product information is uploaded to NuORDER kind of automagically. And then also our ATS inventory available to sell is also shown when placing orders. So it's very easy for reps to, you know, quickly identify items that are out of stock and redirect them into other products.
Awesome, thanks, Dino. So I got a note that everyone is loving what you have to say, but they want to have it be a little bit louder. So,
okay. Sorry.
My mom always told me that I spoke really loudly, so I'll probably need to turn mine down. But I think it's fantastic, especially as we get into really one of the next big areas that I'm so eager to have you share about, with particularly those who have come on at NuORDER, and really even people that have, you know, you certainly know better than anyone, Dino, that this area of getting reps to adopt is so critical and can often create a lot of fear around people when they're, you know, getting the reps to adopt a new tool. They may not be as technically savvy, and oftentimes using a B2B solution like NuORDER ultimately means this massive process change, right, for how reps may have been doing things in the past. So I know this was very much on the forefront of your mind when you partnered with NuORDER. So will you share with everyone what this experience was like in getting your reps to adopt? And then just for everyone that's listening, we also, Dino did reach out and had some good conversations with his reps, and we've provided some of their feedback on the slides as well.
Yeah, happy to address that because it was a big concern of mine, especially because, you know, technology is only as good as adoption. And, you know, we have a pretty extensive rep force. We have probably between all three divisions now almost 25 reps. And I was very concerned that some that are somewhat technically challenged may find the tool unusable and because of that not use it. The end result was actually quite amazing. The reps that I thought would not be utilizing the tool were the ones that submitted pretty much 100% of their preseason orders with Hestra. We had probably 50% of our reps submitted all their orders directly in NuORDER, and the amount of time and effort we saved on a customer service standpoint internally here was amazing. You know, with them entering the orders, gives them a level of accountability, and then have visibility to the order as well throughout the process versus sending in, say, an Excel form. So the end result was, I would say, almost 100% adoption by our rep team, and this was basically after an hour of training and then working with them at trade shows, pre-trade show, to work through the process, the sales process with them.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing I think is always worth talking about too is we cherry-picked some of the feedback here. I know, Dino, when you went out to your reps, they gave you lots of feedback about their experience with, you know, not just looking at what are the great things that they love about it, but those additional things that are really going to help enhance their experience long-term.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, we did get a lot of feedback, good, bad, and different. And, you know, you guys having the willingness to take that to heart and, you know, work on that in future developments is very much appreciated. I think the overall consensus and the message is it's a great platform. Everybody has been ecstatic about it and utilizing it. So because of the adoption, it shows that, you know, it works. The interface is very easy to use and easy to understand. So you guys, kudos to you for developing a great platform.
No, it really is a partnership, and we appreciate that, Dino. And we rely so much on the feedback that not just you, but the reps and the buyers provide as well. So that seems like a pretty good segue into the next portion, which is really the buyer adoption piece. So you shared with me in our conversations that this was really a top area of concern for you. And we want to explore now kind of the other side of the beast. We talked about the reps and now diving in a little bit to the buyer. So we got some feedback from the reps on the buyer's experience, which has been posted up here. But Dino, would you share, not just how you attacked it, but also some of your thought process going into it and some of the hesitations that you had with a new system like this?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of different platforms, B2B platforms out in the marketplace, and retailers can be using any of 6 or a dozen different platforms to enter orders. So, I was concerned that here's another solution that they have to log into and learn. So I was a bit concerned about that. So the way we implemented it was with the help of NuORDER. Once we uploaded all of our buyers and their emails, when we went live, a mass email went out to all of them, inviting them to NuORDER and Hestra, and I think the response was pretty overwhelming. What we've seen at Hestra was even more so, in that within 24 hours we were getting reorders off the platform, which I did not expect. So that was a very pleasant surprise. We're still in the works. We were under a tight time crunch with our rollout, and then obviously getting ready for our 2 big shows, Outdoor Retailer and SIA. So we didn't utilize all the tools that NuORDER had, which is incentives and programs to get people to adopt and use the platform. The overall success throughout the season was pretty overwhelming. A lot of our key accounts are now submitting orders, and we're finding yet a lot of this is happening after business hours, as we anticipated. So, having Hestra open 24/7 is a huge advantage, and I think it's only going to get better as next fall we begin to re-educate all of our buyers again about NuORDER. So we're hoping the adoption level just continues to increase, and orders as well.
Yeah, I think it's so notable. One of the things you said, Dino, was, as you mentioned, we do typically recommend, especially when you're introducing this to your buyers for the first time, a new system, new B2B, we often do suggest running different contests or promotions, things that are going to entice them just a little bit more in that experience. And I was surprised when I'm learning and conversing with you that as you said, due to time constraints, wasn't actually something that you all elected to do. So always good to know for those that are listening, as well as future seasons, that there's still some of those additional things in your back pocket. And you've had such great buyer adoption without it, which I think makes it that much more powerful.
Yeah, and we also want to utilize the functionality of doing in-season promotions, whether it's a slight discount on reorders, free shipping. I think that's really going to move the needle throughout the season. Again, using the NuORDER platform, it's just another way for us to touch our customer base on a more frequent level, that where maybe our reps, because of the size of their territories, can't get out there to service them. So, through NuORDER, we're able to keep in constant with them. So it's fantastic.
We love hearing that, Dino. All right, I'm going to move on to line sheets, and I'll also just do a reminder, we've already had some great questions come in for Dino, so for those of you that are listening, if there's things that are just burning on your mind and you wish that we would expand on a few areas, we're going to have opportunity at the end to do Q&A, so start typing those in. But Dino, I wanted to have you share a little bit about how you use line sheets with NuORDER. Some of them are typical for us, and some of them are a little bit more atypical, but I know that it's created a lot of value for you and something that you really enjoyed. So will you talk a little bit about how you're using line sheets for Hestra?
You betcha. So we have basically 3 different divisions, sport, dress, and then our industrial garden line. And where we find the line sheet functionality useful is we have our core catalog or line sheet up on the site for all of our different divisions. But the big advantage is, especially with the bigger buyers from some of the chains and bigger retailers, is we can actually build a custom line sheet recommendation to them that's specific to just the styles either we reviewed at a trade show or what we're proposing for the upcoming season. So they get a very nice visual representation of a custom catalog just for them. So that's been very successful. Last selling season, we've had a really positive response from all of our larger customers. You can also do recommendations, which is a simple PDF line sheet, if you will. And we've used that for pretty much a lot of our smaller shops where, you know, we'll put together a selection, or we could have a line sheet that is our top 10 products for new dealers that are coming online because we want them in the right product. So all that functionality is achieved by using line sheets. And then you can also do the other idea that we have is you know, custom reorder templates based on their preseason order. So they don't have to look at the entire catalog. They can go back to that document and order off that. So it's a very useful tool, very multifunctional, but very simple to use. I think that's the key point is that in the admin section, you can quickly create these line sheets within a matter of minutes just by drag and drop. And everybody that's worked in this area has just been amazed how easy it is to use.
All right, now I'm going to move us very selfishly, Dino, to our next topic, which is barcode scanning. And the reason I say selfishly is because in my role, I've actually had lots of conversations with customers very recently as we're coming up on a new season with a lot of questions and interest in barcode scanning. It is a newish feature for NuORDER, so there's a lot of curiosities about how it works, how well it works, what are the right situations, and I know that you all at Hestra have had an opportunity to use it with great success, and it's actually the first time I met you, Dino. You guys were using barcode scanning at a show. So I really would love for them to hear what this has been like for you from your experience. And I can probably already imagine one of the questions that might come in is, what are those tips you might have for someone who's thinking about implementing it? But we'll see if we have time to get to that.
Sure, you bet. And I'm happy to address that because it was probably one of the areas that I did not think we would use. And it was rolled out just as we were kind of going live. And our account manager was very adamant that we utilize this at trade show. So I had to get my head around that and how we were going to relabel all our products and such. So for OR, we actually didn't use the function of labeling the products. We just, using the tools that reside in the admin section of NuORDER, we're able to print out a line sheet with barcodes. So in our presentations, utilizing an iPad, we would give them a wireless Bluetooth scanner, either give it to the buyer or we would keep control of it. And as they went through the line, we would simply scan the barcodes. And what that was doing is creating a suggested order for them. So at the end of the meeting, you simply click a few buttons, and before they leave the show, they have an order proposal in front of them. At that point, they can order, you know, intersizing, what have you. So incredibly valuable tool. That was for OR, winter OR. That's how we did it. For SIA, we actually took the time to utilize, again, the functionality that resides in NuORDER and print out barcode labels on standard stock Avery stock, and we labeled all the gloves. In those presentations, it was different. We would take the iPad, or you can even leave the iPad on the desk. You walk around, and as you preview the line, the buyer tells you what styles they're interested in. You simply scan it, and it adds it to the order proposal. The funnest part was actually giving the scanner to the buyers, because all the reps said, if you give them that power, it's amazing how many things they add to the order. You know, obviously, whether or not they keep those on the order is another thing, but it's a visualization of what they've seen at the show versus going through a full catalog and, you know, circling and notes. So very streamlined. It was instrumental in reducing the amount of time we had in our presentations, and it was an absolute hit from all the reps and buyers.
Dino, sometimes we've likened it to registering for a wedding or a shower or something. When you give that barcode scanner over to the buyer, there really is something magical that happens when they have that control. And like you said, I know I'm doing a little bit ahead as a spoiler, but I know you also saw a decrease in some of those appointment times as a result. So thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's been beneficial. And like I said, we may go back and have a few more questions for you on that, but sure. I absolutely want to make sure that we get to the next part, which I put up there, I know is one of your favorite parts of NuORDER, is the reporting. So this is last, but certainly not least in the journey that we're going to share today. So there's a few reports that I know you are a very big fan of that you're using regularly. So would you share a little bit about the reports that you're using, the value that you're finding, and then I know there's also some customized reporting that you are all using on NuORDER as well.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that blew me away the most with NuORDER was their back end, their reporting. There's a lot of B2B systems out there that have a flashy front end, but they're very lacking in the reporting. And to me, this is critical for not only us internally, but also our reps, so they can see what accounts are in. And it's an incredible tool. NuORDER has done an exceptional job of listening to feedback and really building reports that are exportable to Excel, but very pertinent to the information that we want to see as a sales manager, president, sales rep. The tool's fantastic in that there's a lot of pre-canned reports that you can easily modify. And then there is obviously the custom reporting tool, which, I can speak to a little bit later. But, my favorite reports, I think, are obviously the rep reports. So they have a clear picture of what accounts are in, what accounts are not. And I can see that big picture, which is very helpful for us. Then we transition to the product reporting, which, at any given time, I can see what styles are trending. If you see in the graphic there, that little bar graph on the bottom, you can see your top 20 styles, what's trending, what's not. And this really helps us because we're on such a tight production timeline, really helps us in projecting out our preseason production orders. So that's a very, very valuable tool. All the product or item reports are very, very helpful. And there's one that's pretty unique in that it shows you what customers didn't buy your top 10. And then that's an open door for our reps to go back to them and say, by the way, you forgot to add, one of our best sellers to your collection for next fall. So it's just a fantastic tool. The custom report for those who are willing to dive in is very easy, very usable. So you can build pretty much a custom report on the fly. And you don't have to go to the ERP system, which is what we've done historically, and that usually require one of our senior staff or IT to build a custom report. Here, the rep can do it and see all the information they need to see.
And in terms of that, Dino, whether it's you or your team, how often, frequency, would you say that they're accessing the reporting tool?
I don't have any data on that, but I have had some feedback from my reps. Given it was our first year, I would say in time it's even going to become more so. Our key, Rocky's rep, which is a lion's share of our volume, he's using it on a regular basis. I think some of the other reps are beginning to play around with it, especially in the off season. But it's just a fantastic tool, and I think as we become more entrenched in NuORDER, we're going to see that usability go up substantially.
So we've got one more slide before we turn it over into a Q&A. So again, reminder, we've had some great questions come in, but if you've got any for Dino or about NuORDER, feel free to type them in. But I really want to cover off on this slide because, so far we've talked a lot about the softer benefits of NuORDER, right? We've heard from you that there's been efficiency, time gained, less errors, but we also have some harder metrics that I wanted to share because, as you can imagine, one of the things that we hear very often at NuORDER is ultimately, how is a system like this going to help benefit my business and drive it forward? What are going to be some real ROI that I can look at to go back to, be it my investors, my internal partners, my manager, and be able to show here really is concretely some of the value that we had. So we posted some of them up here, Dino. Would you mind walking everyone through a little bit more context around some of these metrics that you all have seen at Hestra?
Yeah, absolutely. Overall, we've seen about a 20% increase in our pre-book sales at our trade shows. And I think this is because of utilizing the scan functionality and being able to, show them a bigger representation and having them be more intrigued with adding more products. We've definitely seen an increase in, our order size. Some of this could be attributed to the growth of our brand, but I do feel that NuORDER had a very strong position in the success we've seen in our growth this year. The next item, 30% decrease in meeting times, was actually interesting because what we found is after SIA and talking to our reps that they had more one-on-one time with them to talk about their business and talk about, Hestra overall versus, spending all of our time going through the entire line. We have a very, very extensive line of 360 some SKUs where by utilizing NuORDER, we were able to focus and really focus in on the key styles and work through the process utilizing the scanning much quicker than we've had doing it manually in the past. And then lastly, 15% increase in reorders. I hate to say this, but Hestra is still a small accessory brand, and more times than not, the buyers forget to take a look at Hestra or at accessories. So by us, communicating with them via NuORDER, we were more top of mind, and I think this, didn't force them, but gave them a reason to engage with the brand and place a reorder or go over and look at Hestra. So I think this is only going to grow over time, and hopefully we see that number increase year after year.
And I mentioned at the beginning, oh, sorry, Dino. I was just going to give a little bit of context for some of those numbers at the bottom.
Yep.
As I mentioned, we'll have a year together in July, if I'm not mistaken. So to give everyone context, if they weren't able to hear at the top of the webinar, so that means that these numbers, we've got 3.4 million in orders, 552 orders placed, and the product units has all really just happened over months. This isn't an over years metric yet, although I can't wait to see what it looks like this time next year. But just to give everyone a little bit of context for some of those bottom numbers.
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal and amazing that, we were able to generate as much orders in our system via NuORDER. You see the dollar amount, which is fairly substantial and a sizable chunk of our overall business. I think the most important numbers are the 552 orders that were placed and the 58,000 units that were ordered. So for our first rollout in our first season, I think this is a phenomenal result. And as I said early on in the beginning, our parent company in Hestra, Sweden, was also very impressed, so much so that, we're rolling it out globally now.
Yay. Awesome. All right, Dino, are you ready for some Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on.
We had some great questions come in. So let me start with this first one because I think it's helpful to give people more context. So this question was, how many people do you have internally that are managing NuORDER?
And actually, it's interesting. We just had a staff meeting this morning, and basically we have about 4 people. And I'll just quickly explain it to you. I have our logistics inventory manager. She's involved with making sure that the items are uploaded from our ERP system NetSuite to NuORDER. So that's kind of her area. we have the customer service area, and they're the ones that are responsible for making sure that the buyers are accurate and that the account is showing up in NuORDER. Again, that's uploaded from NetSuite, so they have to flag a box to upload that information into NuORDER. And then lastly is our marketing manager is responsible for uploading all the graphics. And once the graphics are uploaded, it's a simple process, actually automatic process that associates the graphic with the item. And then you can also do it manually if you want, but it's a pretty amazing process. So I'd say 3 part-time, very part-time staff are interacting with the system on a daily basis.
Awesome. All right, here's the next one for you, Dino. So this question is about the Hestra experience with buyers writing their own orders and what that was like.
In the sense of reorders or a preseason order?
Maybe let's do a little bit of both.
Okay. Preseason orders, obviously, they're engaged with the rep, and the rep is guiding them along the way and, kind of giving them that guidance, if you will. The orders that we're seeing coming over for reorders, it could be 1 pair, it could be 12 pair, it could be 20. But, they're accurate. They have full visibility to it when it ships, and, it's a great thing. So the adoptability from the buyer standpoint has been pretty positive. We've had a handful of customers that have had some trouble logging on, and what they call Heroes team at NuORDER are fantastic. You can call them, you can submit a ticket, and they're on it, and they walk you through every step of the way. I think that's one of the things that's most impressive about NuORDER is their customer service team internally has been fantastic.
Dino, the questions are just pouring in. I hope you can feel your popularity. So,
I don't know about that.
For those of you that do have a question, feel free to keep chatting them. I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them today, unfortunately, but we can certainly circle back and email out some answers to anyone that we're not able to get to. So keep them coming. I know, Dino, when we talked about this, you were very excited about the questions that might come, and we have not been disappointed. So I think here's a really good one for you, Dino, and this is actually about printed catalogs. So the question is, has the number of printed catalogs that you're producing lowered in this last year, or is that part of a plan that you have for the future?
Absolutely, that's the goal because we have roughly in the sport division 800 accounts, and for us, doing these smaller runs is very costly. So that's one of the goals that we hope to achieve with NuORDER. This first season, we just printed the same amount of catalogs, but I can really see that in the future, the number of catalogs needed is going to be very much diminished, simply because they have a digital portal that they can log on anytime, look at the products, see all the specs on the products. So, the days of printed catalogs, I think, are coming to an end, and hopefully so. That's one of the reasons, we've made this investment in a B2B portal. So for last year, to answer your question, it was the same status quo. This year, we may take down the numbers depending on how many we have left over at the end of the season. So that's the ultimate objective.
Got time for one more, Dino?
Sure, I got plenty of time.
I think this is a good one, because when we talked about the integration, you mentioned a little bit about your experience with our integrations team, but this one is specific to your experience with your account manager. Now, you had mentioned about getting prodded to do barcode scanning, but would you mind sharing a little bit about what your experience has been like working with the team?
It's been fantastic. I don't know. I can't speak enough to the NuORDER team, and that's what I absolutely have been most impressed by. Our account manager is phenomenal. They're the ones that inspired me to do the barcode scanning, which I was very hesitant about because I didn't want to disrupt our business as usual, if you will. but they're very engaged and, you know, monitoring the relationship every step of the way, whether it's through integration, interaction with the Heroes team on customer service or rep questions. They're very involved. And then also at trade show. They were in attendance at our trade shows. We did, you know, small meeting presentations and educational on the tool. And it was just fantastic having, working with them and, you know, having them as a part of the rollout and then beyond that as well. You know, we're a year into this, and I talked to Sarah, I talked to our implementation integration specialist quite frequently. So it's been very, very positive.
Dino, thank you so much for being our special guest today. You are such a fantastic partner today and always, and it really has been an immense pleasure to get to go on this journey with you. So thank you for taking the time. For everyone who attended, thank you all for taking time out of your busy days, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or additional comments about the webinar that you haven't already posted, you've got our email and phone number up here, so you can feel free to reach out. And if this was the first webinar you've ever attended, we do these each week at this same time, our Wednesday webinars. And as a sneak peek for next week, Allison from our support team is going to be sharing some tips and tricks on the admin side of our platform. And I can tell you with firsthand experience, she's a real pro at NuORDER, and it's definitely something that you're not going to want to miss. Thank you again, Dino, so much. Thank you to everyone that attended. Have a wonderful day.